can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that back there is not real.
Me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All I gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else see the leprechaun? Say yeah!
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. My gosh.
Before, the Tic Tac type UFO was flying at such speed there that it barely was able to stay on their radar. They didn't get a chance to shoot it down yet.
It's all shifty lawyer talk. I mean, this is like lawyers have scripted this shit. It's just so shifty how the words they use, the language and all this sort of stuff. It's so calculated and it's war propaganda.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Theorists for another show. How are you, Andy?
Howdy, Tim. I'm good. It's Tuesday, so it's news day, so let's dig into it. Can you hear me well this time?
I can. Hopefully our audience can. Andrew Wilson, yes, we are ready to go. Larrikin says, nice legs there, Andy. Eye pink heart shape. That's the holding photo. Wasn't there a initial problem with that photo where the person who put it together, they had to basically blur because you could see up your shorts?
I don't know what you're talking about, Tim.
I think you might be knowing.
I don't know. We've got a big show tonight, don't we, Tim? We've got some interesting conspiracies to talk about, don't we?
Yes, we do. And I'm back on the hard solos because, well, the original solo, it helps quench your thirst. And we are going to be very thirsty this summer because the Bureau of Meteorology, they today declared that it's El Nino.
Ooh, so that means that they're gonna they're gonna cause bushfires this summer. Like, watch out. This is gonna be brutal. They've already started it. Firstly, I want to say this. It's in these modern days where global cooling seems to be happening. The fact that we're having hot weather right now is unusual, okay, for this time of year.
It's not that warm in Melbourne, really. I mean, it was low 20s. It's Sydney where it is over 30.
I know, but it's anyway. I thought this is a bit unusual because usually we only have like 1 or 2 days that are warm and it'll go back to cold or whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is strange. And then I heard that there was a bushfire going on, I think, in the Northern Territory, and I'm like, oh, they're starting to do their whole summer of bushfires thing. Yeah, and now there's bushfires in New South Wales and I think in Queensland. And so basically, this is it. This is what we predicted. It's starting, and then by the time November, December, we're going to be getting it in Victoria, and they're going to make us burn.
So, as I put up on the screen, the Australia's Bureau of Meteorology, the BOM, are funded by the Australian government. So El Nino, it's actually a natural weather phenomenon. So it's a positive Indian Ocean dipole.
And by the way, can I cut in here, Tim? I mean, because I looked into this El Nino thing. I'm very sus about the existence of it. Maybe it does exist, but it doesn't have that much of an effect. And so if there is a lot of an effect, like if we really have a dry summer, I reckon it's because they've made it happen. They've enhanced the El Nino effect.
Well, your favorite news channel, SBS News, they, of course, eagerly reported the declaration of the El Nino. And so they had a story ready to go tonight.
The Bureau of Meteorology has declared that Australia is now in an El Nino climate pattern. That means increased chances of a hot and dry summer with dangerous bushfires.
After months of anticipation, El Nino is officially back. For the first time in 8 years, the Bureau of Meteorology declaring the world's most consequential climate driver is here.
So consistently what we are probably projecting for the summer is that Australia will continue to see warm and dry weather, and it's really up to individuals and communities now to prepare for a summer of heat and fire hazards.
Communities are. Bega Valley Public is one of 20 schools on the New South Wales South Coast closed due to catastrophic fire danger. Nearly 900 homes were lost here during the 2019-2020 Black Summer. Since then, conditions have never been this dangerous.
I expect that to be pretty high in our community, that anxiety around it all. Today's temperature around 34, 35, and with strong winds this afternoon up to 30 kilometres. So while we have no fires within the Shire at the present time, the anxiety and the fear is always there.
The Rural Fire Service is moving more resources to the region.
We've got a lot of resources, large air tanks been sent to dispatch to that fire also, and a number of firefighters on the ground, obviously trying to make sure we protect people and property today.
Tasmania also seeing early fires.
We've got 3 aircraft in the area trying to ascertain where the actual location of this fire is, and we've got a number of crews that are actively firefighting.
An early spring heatwave is already breaking records. In the past week, September records have already been broken in South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales. Temperatures have been as much as 18 degrees above average. And it's not just about the maximum, but the longevity of the warm weather. In Sydney, we're on track to sweat through 4 September days above 30 degrees, setting a new record in data that dates back to 1859. Over the week, the heatwave will move north and west. A taste of the conditions coming this season.
We aren't leading into this summer on the back of extended drought, which somewhat reduces the risk, but we have seen eastern New South Wales dry out quite particularly.
That will bring the highest fire danger since the Black Summer. Liz Maddock, SBS World News.
They just spew out false information so often. Like, they make out that dryness means you get more bushfires. No, it doesn't. Rain actually increases bushfires because rain grows the grasses and the trees. And then when there's a little dry period, like for 3 weeks, then it's ripe for a major bushfire.
Well, also, what starts bushfires is people are deliberately lighting them. A Lady of Shalott says they'll be getting Antifa out to start fires. We know that they love the word catastrophic, all of these, because it actually is a part of the fire danger alert system, a catastrophic fire danger. But remember on Greece, they arrested at least 79 arsonists. I call them arseholenists.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because imagine like 100 years ago, did they have these weirdo arsonists who would start fires? Like, obviously there was some, but like nowhere near as much now. So it's like, it makes you wonder, is it arsonists or is it Antifa and the intelligence agencies?
Oh, well, we know that in pre-British colonial Australia, there were no Antifa. But the Aborigines, they knew how to backburn, and well, that's probably why they're so good at smoking ceremonies. So they knew how to prevent these catastrophic bushfires. So we just need to backburn using traditional Aboriginal cultural practices, and there will not be these catastrophic fires, because a lot of the greenies and environmentalists, they actually protest backburning.
Yeah, it's like when we with the rains and how we should let out the dams so that when the rain comes we don't get a flood, but they don't let out the dams. It's like they want to have the flood. Tim, are you?
Keep going.
Make sure that's your last drink, Tim. Okay, and make sure that's the last one of your hard solos, because you are. Yeah, you seem like you've had quite a few drinks tonight, Tim. Are they sponsoring the show? Are they hard solo? Yeah, but with also just mentioning the dam. It was a dam, I think, in Libya that broke and all these people died. They didn't let out, the government or whatever didn't let out the dams. And that caused the dam to overflow, and they didn't maintain it well. I'm just sus.
That the flooding last year.
Yeah,
yes.
No, the flooding. Yeah, but there's flooding in Libya recently. Um,
That
I'm
was a
sus that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sus that the government has made this happen because there's all this UN talk going on and like it seems a little bit political. So I'm sus about that Libya thing. So I'll just say I'll mention that. But that killed a bunch of people. We've got the Hawaii thing that killed a bunch of people, and I believe this summer or this spring they are going to kill a bunch of people. The government are ready to just slaughter us with a bushfire.
Well, it's no coincidence that they chose a 30+ degree day in Sydney. It's not 30+ degrees in any other capital city. I mean, it is not that warm in Melbourne. It's going to be raining and cold again tomorrow. Peak Aussie Man is in Sydney, and so he said it's hot but not unbearable. So I really want it to be hot. I'm sick of it being so cold and miserable here in Melbourne, and plus perfect beach weather. I remember the awesome time we all had at the beach it was New Year's Eve 2021, where it was 30+ degrees at Elwood Beach. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was like one of the rare hot days, and it didn't even get up to 40 on that day. I think it didn't make it to 40. What was I going to say? I think they're just with that report there. They were just cherry picking, locations and stuff. But I don't like it when it's windy and when the weather's weird. Like I don't mind if it's a whole day of rain or like I just don't like craziness. You know what I mean?
Melbourne's always been like that.
Yeah, it's just annoying. I don't like that.
But apparently, there was a 7 News report earlier this year that said Melbourne's 4 season in one day can cause adverse health outcomes. So, if you have a sudden heart attack, it could be due to Melbourne's changing weather.
Yeah, well, my prediction is that we're going to have stretches of days where it's warm and not raining at all, and it's going to be nice because last spring there was just so much rain and there wasn't stretches of nice warm weather. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I've had 3 colds this winter, so I'm looking forward to it to be warmer. I just got over my 3rd cold for the year. Why have I had 3 colds this year, Andy? It's quite like obviously.
Well, from a conspiracy theory point of view, we will jump straight to the COVID vaccine. But there's numerous other reasons why. One big thing that gets ignored, which is a really clever conspiracy that they're doing because it's not as obvious, it's the whole GMO thing. So there's all this food that we're eating these days that are genetically modified, right? And they modified them so that then the food can survive the pesticides that they spray to kill the bugs. So it helps with the farming, but it makes the product that you eat full of pesticides. And that pesticide is designed to go into the stomach of the bug and destroy the stomach and kill them. So when we eat it, guess what the pesticides do? It goes into our stomach and it fucks up our stomach and it gets us sick. And because when you got a bad stomach, you're more likely to get sick from colds and stuff like that. So that's another major thing that's going on in the world is the big GMO problem, which is pretty hard to get away from.
Vignal asked, you all got the vaccine. Well, I got 2 shots of AstraZeneca, and that was it for me. Though Andy, he
you're cutting out, Tim. When I actually thought you were drunk, but then I realized it was just the internet. So yeah, you're cutting out there, Tim. So maybe it's the drink or something like that that's going on that's interfering with it. But there are
with vaccine.
Well, yeah, you're really cutting out. Yeah, yeah, exactly. The metals that are in the vaccine interfering with the Wi-Fi. But here in Australia, we haven't had too much talk about COVID. There actually is talk about COVID in America. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because a lot of people a few weeks ago were saying, oh, COVID's coming back, and we did a show about it. But it hasn't quite been a thing here. But they were
No,
doing it in
because
America.
the psyop is already the global boiling, officially confirmed El Nino summer. It's Australia's going to be scorched again, and so obviously they are trying to blame climate change. Just merging both climate and COVID. I do notice in Australia, bizarrely, that on warm days, there's actually more people wearing masks inside and outside. Have you noticed this?
Nah.
Well, I've noticed it. I don't know what it is. Like, do they think because there's more people about that because it's warm that they need to wear a mask? Or is that, I know in the US fires, they tried to convince people wear masks, otherwise you'd choke on the smoke, even though they don't work for that either.
Also, they don't stop the bushfire haze from affecting your lungs and stuff. The masks.
A paper mask, no.
Paper mask? You mean the cheap ones?
Well, I mean, that's the ones that they made us wear for COVID, whether they be surgical or KCUNT 95 masks, if you get my reference there. They're all made of paper. I want to go back further up into the chat. So there is a comment from Dia Beltran, who says that you and I should hook up this weekend. Oh, so sorry, she said, any chance of a date this weekend, Andy? And
I'll think about it.
Larrikin says Andy will probably be out loud and proud this Saturday at Parliament at 12 p.m. Do you know what's going on then?
Yeah, that's an anti-voice event, pretty much, isn't it?
Yes, I promoted it on Tim's News Explosion last night. So it's coinciding with the worldwide freedom rally event. So this Saturday, 23rd of September, 2023. So the one in Melbourne will be Parliament House. The big one, though, is going to be in Sydney. And the Yes campaign, they had all their rallies this weekend, and they thought that because we got hundreds of thousands of people to our Yes rallies, that means that we're going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I know someone who works at ANZ Bank, and he said that there's a staff member dedicated to educating staff at the bank about the Yes campaign. So
well, a lot of corporations
ANZ's paying someone to go around the bank. They've hired someone, or someone who had some other role is given this role, but they don't educate people on the no side of point of view. They just tell you the yes point of view. So that's like having a court case and saying all the reasons why you think the guy murdered the person, and then you don't hear the other side where they mention the reasons that the person didn't murder the person or whatever. So it's just interesting. Like the system is really behind this voice.
Well, most corporations have it's called a reconciliation action plan, and I've heard there's been a publicity blitz by a representative of the Australian Retailers Association, talking about how they support the voice, and they deplore customer aggression in their stores that their chain is promoting the Yes campaign, because that's another thing that the Yes campaign, they think by getting all the corporations and obviously the sporting codes to sign up that it's a consensus.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they rigged the whole thing. Actually, we'll see what happens.
I know that the yes activists on Twitter X, they're claiming that the polls are fake because everyone I know is voting yes.
Yeah, do you know what I think this also is? The results of this is basically is like, are you with the leftist system or are you not? That's what I kind of see it as. It's kind of like like an election almost. Like, are you a lefty or are you right wing? I think it may be that it's a way of surveying the whole public and finding out in a different way. Have you bought all the brainwashing bullshit or are you independent?
Did you see outside the No campaign had an event in Adelaide last night? The local Antifa showed up to protest outside. Did you see some of it?
No, not really.
I'll play it now.
No. This is your Australia. Thank you, Labor government. Thanks for the unity.
The old chant, racist, sexist, anti-queer, bigots are not welcome here.
Yeah, your voice is a bit quiet, Tim. Is that just me or is everyone noticing that?
Oh, well, I can turn myself up if
that's better. Quiet. You're sounding stronger. You're sounding good now.
Well, someone said my voice was too loud on previous shows, so...
We'll turn it down a bit more. Now it's a bit too loud. Now it's a bit too loud.
Well, luckily I know how to control my sound, unlike some other people.
Well, I mean, I had the StreamYard setting for the past few weeks on like automatic level thingo, but the automatic level things are annoying. They tend to fuck up. So anyway, but Tim, you've got an ad that Andrew Bolt was playing on his show, and it's pretty funny because he criticizes the ad. It's actually almost like a comedy sketch. It's that funny.
Because the You're the Voice ad that the Yes campaign put out using John Farnham's song, it didn't make an impact. It was only sort of like made the Yes activists cry. They said, "Oh, this is they all said the same thing, that I was bawling my eyes out. Don't mess this up, Australia." And do you remember in that ad, I've said this before, that according to the Yes campaign, Australian history only started in 1967 with the referendum, which made it so that the federal government could make laws for Aborigines.
So that's when our history began.
Yes. Apparently, so before 1967, the Australian history is not worth remembering.
Okay. Yeah, this agenda, it's pretty interesting, this whole agenda thing, because it's like, I guess it is some sort of divide and conquer thing, some sort of destabilization communist agenda. It's just really weird because they're doing the same thing in America where they're pumping up the blacks and the Native Americans.
Well, in the UK as well.
But who are they pumping up in the UK? Are they pumping up just the blacks that are in UK?
Oh, well, we found out through the Peckingham protest during that cosmetic store dispute between the Pakistani store owner and the black woman that blacks, Afro-Caribbeans as they're known, they are higher on the intersectionality hierarchy than Pakistanis and Indians. So there's always got to be even amongst the non-whites, there's obviously some who are deemed more oppressed than others, and even some non-white races are deemed privileged.
Well, have you got this ad that I shared on my Telegram?
Yes, this is the Yes campaign's latest attempt.
Will I grow up in a country that hears my voice? Will I live as long as other Australians? Will I get to go to a good school? Will I be able to learn my people's language? Will I be seen beyond the sports field, recognised by the decision makers of our country? Yes makes it possible.
Authorised by Dean Park and Australians for Indigenous Constitutional Recognition Limited in Sydney.
So I quickly cut in before we say anything further in case maybe some Abos listening. What makes you think the government will solve any of your problems? And anyone else who's listening in regards to anything, does the government actually solve any problems? Or what do? They just fuck things up and they just cause problems. Okay? And it tends to be a huge scam. So that video is just disgusting because it's tricking people into thinking that it'll solve these problems and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, it's not. It's all a scam. Okay? It's just all bullshit.
And using a small child, clearly it's another attempt at moral blackmail. Vote yes, or the little boy gets it. Vote yes, or you hate Aboriginal children. You don't hate Aboriginal children, do you? And
maybe you shouldn't ask me that question, Tim. No, I'm kidding.
But he said the boy says, "Oh, will I get a voice?" Well, you're in a national television commercial. Clearly, like, your voice is being amplified across every media. So yes, you've got a voice. You've been given a voice already.
They already gave the blacks the vote, and the vote's just bullshit and crappy anyway.
Vote a long time ago. This is about giving, those who identify as Aboriginal and are accepted as Aboriginal extra rights. But we don't even know how voting for this voice will take place. I mean, we have the First Peoples Assembly in Victoria, which those who identify and are accepted as Aboriginal can vote and be elected. That's part of the reason why Victoria's so broke, is because Dan wastes money on all of this social justice bodies, and he's always, even though he's like cutting health programs and also infrastructure spending, he's still got money to give to either Aboriginal causes or LGBT causes. You can find another 10 million for mental health hotlines, because apparently transphobia is at epidemic levels.
Yeah, you know what? I got a theory here. I do think this is some sort of divide and conquer thing. I think that they've got a world government, basically, and when we saw COVID occur, that was them. Basically, that was the world government appearing. Okay, so there is a world government in all these different countries, even Arab countries and Russia, who's rebellious, but they're still affected by the world government. But the world government, to cement its power base, it needs to get state governments, local governments, all that sort of stuff fighting each other, and with Aboriginal stuff, everyone fighting each other, so that they are the strong one and they remain there and they remain all powerful and stuff. So that's what I think might be going on with this whole pump up the black and Black Lives Matter and this Aboriginal voice. I think it's all about causing infighting and causing us all to hate our governments, and then their world government dominates.
Well, if you end up hating the Australian government, you can be guaranteed that world government it would be even worse, particularly what the European Union and the UN and the World Economic Forum, what they dream of. And of course, one of their dreams is the 15-minute city, or what it's called in Victoria, Plan Melbourne, 20-minute neighbourhoods. So Dan's suburban rail loop, which is going from Cheltenham all through the middle suburbs, through the east and the north, the west, meeting at Werribee. It's about having 15-minute cities for your convenience, so that all your amenities are within these suburban super hubs. And Dan's given himself, he's planning to give himself extra planning powers around these suburban rail loop station. He's got this big housing build, which is basically government-owned apartment towers that he's building.
This is classic, by the way. This is classic communist town planning. I mean, literally, these are sorts of stuff communists were doing in the 60s and stuff.
Yeah, so there's this website, homes.vic.gov.au. So they've got this strategic partnership project. So they're already spending billions on it. So Dan.
Can I quickly say as well? I mean, I heard, I think they're pulling down a building in Box Hill, and I think you told me they're pulling down some commission flats to build stuff. We have a housing shortage,
Yes,
okay? We don't have enough workers. It's not a time to destroy already built housing for people, okay? But of course, Dan Andrews is doing it because he's just disgusting.
Yeah, so Dan is tearing down two of these old housing commission towers in Carlton. They are really ugly.
Well, no, but hold on. Yeah, I know, but as in they are accommodation, and they're probably not worthy of being pulled down. Like, you can actually live in them and stuff, and it's just government housing, so it doesn't matter if they're pretty or not. I live in a house from the 60s.
Government housing, as we saw during COVID, if the government owns where you live, well, they can make you a prisoner in it. I mean, it was about 12 of those public housing towers that Dan totally locked down Wuhan, like level 5 lockdown during 2020. They weren't even allowed to leave their apartment rooms.
Yeah, so that's what they'll do with these government housing places. I mean, they'll have more security in them, and they'll be more computerized, computer controlled, and they'll shut down. And then they're all connected by the trains, and the trains will be all shut down if they need to do some sort of stunt. And it's just all communism.
That's what I wonder as well, because there's a whole heap of these new public housing towers, and they don't look like, the distinctive 1960s ones that we see in Carlton or North Melbourne or Kensington or Fitzroy or Richmond. They look like they obviously look very nice and modern. And so Dan was with Albanese today, and so it's called the Social Housing Accelerator Project. So it is a $2 billion fund. So the Greens helped pass Anthony Albanese's. It's housing future fund, which will build 30,000 new homes. I've just got to check how much it's worth.
Can I say that
10 billion, 30,000 homes.
Yeah, there's these Mousetopia experiments that show when you get a bunch of mice and you put them together in a small environment, they go crazy. Basically, they turn into rapists and trannies and people who are attracted to both sexes and stuff like that, and no sexes as well. They're not attracted to anything, and they actually groom themselves all the time to make themselves look pretty, and they don't do anything. Anyway, basically the rat civilization increases in the short term, but in the long term they die out and reduce in numbers. When they're doing this with our accommodation, which they started doing in the 60s, because it wasn't just that they put in these project government housing things. Across Melbourne, you see heaps of apartments being built in the 60s. They're for us, and they've continued this program. So basically, when they're trying to squish into all these small buildings, it's a communist depopulation tactic. Basically.
Well,
the
Greens, they've positioned themselves as the champion of renters, and of course, renters don't own their homes. And now the Greens, they believe that property developers and landlords are these greedy, evil people, and so they think that the benevolent government should own all of these properties by the renters. They would want a total communist system where there is no home ownership.
But also these guys, they don't understand the people who are playing 4D chess that are above them, the real people who are pushing the socialist world government. Yeah, they don't understand the real stuff that's going on. And this whole idea of living in a little shoebox apartment is basically to stop us from having more than 2 kids, basically. So you're either going to have 2, 1, none, and also you're going to die from some thing that they've prescribed to us. But they're doing this because they're trying to control Earth's population.
Well, in the Soviet Union, people in St. Petersburg, Moscow, they all lived, whole families lived in small apartment towers, and they were deliberately built really, really ugly. I mean, obviously, Dan Andrews and Elbow are going for the gentrified look, but the they've ditched there's no longer, remember, both major parties, they used to they used to want to they knew that people, the dream, it was called the Great Australian Dream, for you to own your own home. Now it seems that well, Labor and the Greens, they don't want people to have that aspiration anymore, or they believe that it's not achievable for people. And so their solution is, well, just people rent for life in government-owned properties.
Yeah, and also, even if you're not in a government property, you have to like borrow $500,000 to afford a house these days. And that basically means you never really own the house, because then you have to keep on paying the bank back, and you have to keep on being a good boy and paying your taxes and following all the rules. Otherwise, you get in trouble with the bank and you'll lose the property. So that debt, you're like a debt slave. And that actually gets to the whole truth of the Western civilization that we live in, is that it's run by the bankers, and it's like a covert, sneaky debt slavery event that's occurring. And it's just a clever way of enslaving people, because it's not like we've got shackles and chains on us. You can't see it. And people think they're free, but we are controlled by the debt. And this is also part of the reason why I think our governments have courage to get into debt by the bankers, because we're all forcibly citizens of our government. And when our government gets into all this debt, spending all money on all this stupid shit, then we have to get enslaved in order to pay back the debt. And we're basically enslaved. And actually, this is really interesting stuff, because people need to know it, because I've been discovering it recently. What happened was that America rebelled against Britain, and Britain lost their colony. France and another country helped America rebel and have that revolution in 1776. England never forgot that. They were like, America is fucking ours. And over time, eventually, England managed to infiltrate sneakily America and take it over. And they did that via the Federal Reserve and the banking system. So America has been made a socialist country, has been made un-American, using this sneaky form of debt slavery. And Britain is in charge of America. And anyway, I just thought I'd mention that.
I mean, obviously, to start a business and own a home, it's very hard for people to have enough savings, afford to do that outright, and so that's why there is a place for loans in our society. But certainly the government is to blame why housing is so expensive. So they've created this lack of housing supply, but their solution is, oh, come and live in one of our homes that we've built just for you.
At the exact same moment in the 90s, when we noticed a lot more Chinese people here, about the mid-90s when Pauline Hanson was rising up, that was the exact same moment that we see housing prices increasing at ridiculous amounts. Like if you had a house like in Toorak or something like that in 1996 and you paid $200,000 for it, a year later that would be worth $270,000. That's a huge increase if you look at it percentage wise. It started back then and it kept on going and kept on going. And so yeah, anyway, but see, the thing is that Britain had a world empire, and the bankers got in control of the banking of that empire, and then they took over the world through a banking system. So there's this huge slavery system called the New World Order that's all connected in with banking. And anyway, but yeah, it's Yeah, that's basically the plan for Melbourne in the future. We've already got heaps of apartment buildings now, but we're going to have even more. And yeah.
And obviously, Melbourne is becoming, well, more and more crime ridden. I mean, there was.
Yeah, and sorry, can I say as well, that with the Mousetopia experiments, this is what happens. Trannies increase, crime increases. And on top of that, they also done experiments with rats. When you give them amphetamines, the rats start going crazy, and it speeds up the effect of the Mousetopia situation. And we are getting given drugs from all these different sources. And guess who's giving us the drugs? The government. They're shipping in the drugs secretly. They're bringing them all in, and it's all a depopulation operation.
We should move on now. We've been following the Kissgate saga involving the now ex-Spanish Football Association president Lucy Rabals. So New South Wales Police said last week that they would cooperate with Spanish prosecutors because Jenny Hermoso wants to file a criminal complaint. Well, there has been a further legal update.
A Spanish court has imposed a restraining order on the country's former football chief, Luis Rubiales. The ruling bars him from going to within 200 metres of footballer Jenny Hermoso. Rubiales kissed Hermoso on the lips after Spain won the Women's World Cup in Sydney last month. He claims she consented, but Hermoso has repeatedly denied that.
So he's had his life ruined just because of a spontaneous in the moment, because he was so overcome with joy at the Spanish women's team winning the World Cup, kissed her on the lips, which is like that has been commonplace particularly in Latin cultures where they are very, very affectionate. For just a kiss like that, it wasn't sexual at all.
Yeah, I really do think this is one of the most outrageous things ever. I honestly think this is like a whole new level. It's not surprising. It's part of their feminist agenda. And I think maybe if it goes to court or whatever, it might get thrown out, and it should get thrown out. But the problem is that with these types of things, they cause so much drama before the person's even actually gotten legally into trouble. So the person loses their job. The person has all these attacking things happen on the internet, and so it's just crazy because they get this whole onslaught of attack at the start before it's even been proven in court or whatever. And we're seeing it with Russell Brand at the moment, whereas he's getting screwed over. And
he has spontaneously kissed many women on camera, not on the lips. And he by his own
that's a really good point, Tim. You're right. There's all this footage of him doing. Yeah.
And the women, they're obviously happy to play along. There's a lot of women who, well, they like being hit on and flirting with an attractive man, which there's a lot of people who think that Russell Brand looks hideous, but clearly there's a lot of women who thought that he was really handsome. Over 10,000 have slept with him. He was a self-confessed sex addict. But yes, now, well, I covered it on my show last night. I'll allow you to share your thoughts on the in plain sight Channel 4 dispatches for women accusing him of rape and sexual assault.
Well, I don't think there's a conspiracy behind this. Like, I know that he has been putting out a lot of truthful content, but I believe that the powers that be would just get his content shadow banned or get him deleted off YouTube or something like that, with having to come up with a whole Me Too thing. I think that the only conspiracy behind this is the Me Too movement, and it's about time that it caught up with him, because with this Me Too movement, any man who's openly sexual like how he is, they're going to just get them. And the whole Me Too movement is tied in with the whole depopulation thing. That's the whole point of it. Of course, it's ridiculous, but that's what they have to do to reduce the world population. And I feel sorry for him because he might get jail time, like serious jail time.
They'll try. The prosecutors will try their best. It was interesting that they couldn't get Kevin Spacey, and there have been attempts to prosecute other famous celebrities on sexual assault charges, most famously or infamously Sir Cliff Richard. The jury acquitted him on all charges very quickly. So when they get to court, the juries at least figure out what the truth is.
Yeah, there was this the guy from that 70s show, Danny Masterson, who just recently got sentenced to like 25 years in prison because of rape or something. And I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, I've seen it, and
yeah, I don't know if he's guilty or not. But to me, I think the jury results there was one situation where the jury couldn't come to result, another one where the jury just came to result, and another one where I don't know, but it wasn't like it was extremely one-sided, like, yeah, he definitely did it, and all the jury agreed. And I don't know, I just think the 25 years is like, whoa, for like something where the jury was trying to think about it for so long. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I haven't followed it closely. It was interesting that Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, his co-stars, originally defended him, but after he got found guilty, convicted, they released a apology video. We're sorry that we supported him.
Yeah, well, I think that this Masterson case is this whole Me Too movement, and it's connected up to the whole depopulation thing because they're trying to stuff up, I don't know,
that's why
men or something like that.
In the North Asian countries, that's the future of the West, where there is like Taiwan, Japan, and spreading to Korea and mainland China. The men and women, they're not settling down, having families. And a lot of them live in have virtual girlfriends and boyfriends. They're robosexuals.
Yeah, and the globalists will want that to happen to every guy, and they want people to see these court cases. Basically, these Me Too court cases are big propaganda events, and they want guys to see it and go, "Oh, I'm gonna not be involved with girls because I can get in trouble too." So this Masterson result of 25 years is really wild, and that's why I'm concerned about what's going on with Russell Brand, because that's a big propaganda one, and he's so openly masculine. And
I wouldn't
just think
say
they might.
He's an alpha. I mean,
Well,
when
I think they're going to destroy him. They might really destroy him.
When he did the Nazi Boy documentary with Mark Collett, he looks like a woman.
Yeah, and that's probably why they picked him to promote him up, because he came across as being homosexual.
BBC and Channel 4, they threw TV shows and specials at him.
Yeah, because firstly, he looked ethnic, right? And, you know, they liked that. And he looked gay because he would wear the tight jeans and he had the long hair, right? But he was into chicks. But that's what they made him. They popped him up, and then now they're going to bring him down because they need to send a message to all the boys: don't have sex, otherwise you'll get into trouble. And this is just how it is.
Well, this is the latest from your favorite news outlet, SBS News, about already the cancelling of Russell Brand.
Police in London have received a report of an alleged sexual assault after British media revealed 4 women are accusing comedian Russell Brand of sexual abuse and rape. His stand-up performances have now been postponed. His agent has cut ties and revenue from his YouTube channel stripped. Brand denies any wrongdoing and says he has never had non-consensual sex.
Russell Brand claims he's the victim of a coordinated attack by the mainstream media.
And plainly, they are working very closely together.
But now a fresh allegation has been made, not to journalists, but to police. The Times newspaper and British broadcaster Channel 4 spoke to 4 women who have accused Brand of sexual assaults, including a rape, between 2006 and 2013. The allegation, now reported to Scotland Yard, predates those. On Sunday 17th of September, the Met received a report of a sexual assault which was alleged to have taken place in Soho in central London in 2003. Officers are in contact with the woman and will be providing her with support. Having performed in London on the night the allegations were broadcast, the rest of Brand's tour is now on hold. We are postponing these few remaining addiction charity fundraiser shows, his promoter said. We don't like doing it, but we know you'll understand. Brand failed to appear on his regular web show today and hasn't commented on the allegations made against him since this initial statement, in which he claimed his anti-establishment views made him a target.
The relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play?
One of the women who accused him of abuse in the documentary says his response is laughable.
He's not outside the mainstream. He did a Universal Pictures movie last year. He just happens to have a YouTube channel where he talks about conspiracy theories to an audience that laps it up.
Brand's former agent denies knowledge of any illegal behaviour.
I've never had any complaints about it, other than turning up late. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Scotland Yard has not said if a formal criminal investigation has begun. The BBC and Banijay, the company which produced one of Brand's television shows, have both launched reviews into his conduct and what executives knew of it. In London, Ben Lewis, SBS World News.
The reason I wanted you to play that news report, Tim, was because I saw almost the exact same news report on BBC News, like literally where it showed the same footage and it went from the same thing and like it was almost
it's
the same.
coordinated by the British mainstream media. So it was a joint investigation by the Times, which is owned by News Corp, and by Channel 4, which is Channel 4 is owned by the UK government. They also employed Russell Brand and did the BBC, which is owned and funded by the British government, well, through the license fee from British residents. And Channel 4, they like for them to sort of claim the moral high ground when it comes to sex. I mean, some of their programs recently, they aired a special where a transgender comedian stripped naked live on air and played the piano with her penis. They had a show called Naked Education, where a bunch of older people, many of them are transgender. I think one had done sex work, stripped naked in front of teenagers as part of Naked Education. And another one of their documentaries was My Massive Cock, about men with big penises.
Yeah, they're pretty outrageous. But with this news report, it's like SBS literally copy-paste. And like, this is how you spread propaganda around all the mainstream medias, is that they just copy off each other. And I knew it because I was in the news and I saw how they just copy-paste with the way they do their news. And this is where you can get like global warming lies, because you get one news source that's in their network to report it about a global warming lie, maybe about the Great Barrier Reef, and then they all just copy paste it, and then everyone goes, oh wow, it really must be happening. And it's like, no, they're all just copying off that initial story, and that initial story isn't true. Oh
yeah, it's clearly coordinated, and Now, the defenders of the mainstream media have said, well, they started this meticulous investigation back in 2019 before Russell Brand became an alt-right anti-vaxxer conspiracy theorist. So that had nothing to do with it. But obviously, there would be lots of things that they work on that don't make it to air because they can't substantiate it. But clearly, they're no longer. If he is eventually found guilty of what he's accused of, clearly they've done him in because, well, he was no longer useful to them. They didn't feel the need to protect him because all these people claiming that it was an open secret for many years. Well, that just shows you were complicit in it all. Channel 4, BBC, they clearly didn't think it would blow back up in their face because they just saw that they did this pylon on Russell Brand, but it's blowing back on them because, well, you guys employed him. Like, they just thought that the media, the mainstream media, naively, oh, well, they'll just all attack him and not us.
That's a really good point, Tim, about it, where if he was useful, they would protect him. You know what I mean? But he's obviously out of their network now because he's too much of a rebel, so they're not protecting him. Because they protect Daniel Andrews, they protect Biden and all the crimes he does. They protect the celebrities. But when they're no longer of use to them, then they just let the leftists destroy them with this whole Me Too thing. What's the news about this like a UFO investigator being assigned for NASA?
Yes, so there was a big NASA UFO report last Thursday. So they said that they haven't been able to substantiate, like confirm that any of the unidentified aerial phenomenon that's their term for it, are of extraterrestrial origin. So the agency has said it must be the hypothesis of last resort, the answer we turn to, only ruling out all other possibilities. And so they have now got a research director of UAP. They initially withheld his name; it was classified, but his name is Mark McNeely. He's the director of UAP research.
Okay, so basically, what are you saying? That NASA wants to find out about UFOs?
Yes, they said that. This report here, it says that the stigma is being removed around UFOs. So
yeah, that's because they're making the stigma be removed because they're starting to actually talk about it and they're starting to promote it by. They're running a program at the moment to make us aware of it. Finally.
Yeah, I know we've discussed this before. There's a lot of people who now no longer believe in alien UFOs because the government's talking about it, where it's basically they just believe in the opposite of what the government is telling them. And we also had that Mexican the unveiling of the UFO the UFO fossils. Did you see that? In the Mexican, in a Mexican congressional hearing, that was quite extraordinary. Most
that
people
was the aliens. Are they suggesting that they're alien bodies?
Yes, from thousands of years ago.
And what was the shape of the body?
Well, you can see it from here.
Yeah, because I think I saw it, and you can't. It looks like it looks human-like, but it's.
Yeah, it looks very much like E2, ET, I should say.
ET.
Yeah, so it was Mexican journalist Jose Jaime Musan. Now, so he says that they are found in Peru non-human beings that are not part of our part of our terrestrial evolution. So these were apparently found in 2017. Though he has made similar claims in Peru, but the prosecutor's office found they were actually recently manufactured doll. They've been covered in a mixture of paper and synthetic glue to simulate the presence of skin. This is it's not really a smoking gun. Lady of Charlotte says the Mexican aliens were hysterically bad. It looks like the aliens from Indiana Jones 4, says peak Aussieman.
Well, the whole alien thing is true, but they've been covering it up, and now that they're telling us, they're probably going to tell us in a faulty, dodgy way, because they have reasons for why they do whatever they do. But it's nice to know that they are, getting us prepared. Because, this stuff was really kept under wraps up until about 1989 when Bob Lazar started to come out about Area 51. People, it was really quiet. And then in the 90s, we had, talk about aliens and conspiracies and stuff.
And the X-Files TV program.
Yeah, the X-Files TV and movies came out and
Independence Day, Signs.
Yeah. And I honestly believe started something in 1989. They said, okay, we're going to start doing it. And each year they've been doing more things. But just recently, or maybe about 5 years ago, they started increasing it. They started being like, no, let's really wake people up to aliens. And the Bob Lazar thing is really interesting because that's sus. I trust Bob Lazar, but as in it to me appears like that was intentionally a leak. Like they made the whole stuff up happen where Bob Lazar blew the whistle. Because it's very strange. Some things in it. If you're running an intelligence operation, you're covering up the UFO thing, and you're running the Area 51 base. You just wouldn't allow the way they handled Bob Lazar and his leaks is just, it's sus. Okay. So I think that they came up with a program and they're like, we're going to have this guy leak it and we're going to encourage him to leak it. And it was all scripted and stuff. But anyway, we should probably finish up the show, Tim.
Yeah, we've just ticked over the hour. Andrew Wilson says, Tim, what's the verdict on those hard solos? About to pick up some. Possibly. Well, they are expensive. For a 10-pack, it's $45 to $50.
Really?
Is
it alcohol cost these days, or is that just the hard solo?
Because it's a vodka, it's considered a mixed with lemonade, a lemon squash, I should say. It's considered an alco pop. So it's covered under the alco pops tax that Kevin Rudd passed to curb teen binge drinking.
Things cost so much these days, man. Like cigarettes, cigarettes like $45 a pack. How much are cigarettes a pack these days? Are they $45?
It's about $2 for a stick. That's what it works out to.
So what is it in a pack then? So that would make it like $45, would it?
Well, for a 40 pack of cigarettes can be $80.
Yeah, but what's a normal cigarette size packet?
There's like 20s, 25s, 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, so it's so expensive, and petrol at the moment is like $2.30. So things are just so expensive these days.
Maybe we can talk about inflation conspiracies next show.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just think that they're making petrol high at the moment because they've got to slow down the economy to make some unemployment because people have died from the jab and stuff. So anyway, but I think they will increase interest rates a bit more. So, it's not going to end. It's not like interest rates are going to suddenly go down and petrol's going to go back to $1.50 a litre.
Oh, no. 30 years ago, it was under $1 petrol.
Yeah. And property prices won't get cheaper or anything. It's just part of the whole system, New World Order.
All right, we'll wrap it up. I thank you, Andy. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Make sure if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you click the bell to allow for notifications. Give a thumbs up and comment below. And we'll see you next Tuesday. There'll be a new report from Richard Wollstonecroft from Tiger Mountain later in the week, published on the Unshackled. I'll be back next Monday with Tim's News Explosion, 9 p.m. Melbourne time on the Wilms Front channels. And Andy, will I see you at the No to the Voice rally on Saturday?
Maybe. I mean, I probably should go, huh? Subscribe to Andy Nolch's Telegram and BitChute channel.
Yep, I'd approve of that and encourage that as well. And of course, we're going to be doing a live stream of the Voice referendum on October the 14th. Starting at 5 p.m. It's going to be a Trad Tasman Talk production because it's New Zealand general election night, starting at 5 p.m. Melbourne time, a Super Saturday. So that is going to be epic as well. Yes, Andy will put the channel address in the. You can also
I just said just search it. I just said I'm too lazy. Just search it.
Too tired as well.
Yeah, well, look, my name Andy Nolch isn't a common name. Like, it's not like Jim Jones or some shit. So, like, it's easy to find in search engines.
And well, if you Google your name, I mean, you're famous.
Yeah, but on YouTube though, there's not other people who are taking up the words Andy Nolch. You know, because names like Alex Johnston or some shit is like there's tons of those names. But Nolch is really rare.
Yeah. Oh, so is Wilms. And my
is
name
it?
Tim Wilms is, yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm definitely the only Tim Wilms in Australia.
That's cool.
I know.
All right. See you, everyone.
Good night. Bye.